You don't need another stop buying lattes lecture. What you need is to understand why you keep overspending in the first place and how to break the cycle for good. Because here's the truth. If you don't change your spending habits at the root level, you'll keep falling into the same traps. You'll make a budget and break it. Set a savings goal and abandon it. And that constant cycle, it keeps you stuck living paycheck to paycheck forever, no matter how much money you make. I've seen this happen not only in my own journey, but in almost every person I've helped with their finances. It's not about how smart you are or how much you make. It's about how your brain's wired to spend. And once you understand that, everything changes. Today, I'm going to show you how to reset your finances by shifting your spending habits at the source, so you can finally take control of your money in a way that actually sticks. I'll walk you through why willpower isn't enough to stop overspending, what really drives unconscious spending habits, and the practical mindset shifts that will help you break the cycle for good. I'm Rose Colburn, and every week I help you take control of your money with real, BS-free financial strategies that actually work in real life, because no one should feel like financial freedom is out of reach. Have you ever told yourself, this time I'm sticking to my budget, only to overspend 3 days later and feel like a total failure? It's frustrating, right? But here's the truth. It's not about discipline. It's about psychology. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a store determined to grab just one thing and somehow walked out with $50 worth of extras. It used to leave me feeling like I had no self-control. But once I learned how the brain responds to spending, everything started to make sense. When you spend money, especially on something you want, your brain rewards you by releasing dopamine, the feel-good chemical. It's the same hit you get from sugar, scrolling social media, or even gambling. That dopamine makes you feel good right now, which means your brain starts chasing that feeling on autopilot. And here's the kicker. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic and planning and self-control, is always fighting an uphill battle against your emotional brain. So when you tell yourself, just don't spend, you're literally relying on the weakest part of your brain to fight the strongest one. That's why willpower eventually runs out. It's not sustainable because it wasn't designed to win this fight alone. So the first step to breaking the cycle is understanding you're not broken, you're not lazy, and you're not irresponsible. Your brain is doing exactly what it was wired to do, which is to seek quick rewards and avoid discomfort. But once you understand how your brain responds to spending, you can stop blaming yourself and start building systems that work with your brain instead of against it. And I'll talk a little bit more about those systems later in the video. But first, let's talk about what's triggering those spending urges in the first place. Because even if you understand your brain's wiring, it's nearly impossible to stop overspending if you don't recognize what's setting off those impulses in the first place. And that's where unconscious emotional spending comes in. Have you ever noticed that you tend to spend more when you're stressed or bored or even just a little sad? That's not coincidence. Most of us think overspending is about money, but it's really about our emotions. I remember one time, and to be honest, probably it's been more than one time, I was having a rough week and everything felt like it was going wrong. I opened up Amazon just to browse, and the next thing I knew, I had a cart full of things I didn't even need. It wasn't about the stuff. It was about feeling in control and getting a little boost, a little comfort. Sound familiar? This is emotional spending, and often it happens without us even realizing it. We spend to soothe ourselves, to reward ourselves, or to distract ourselves from something deeper. It's why retail therapy is such a common phrase. It temporarily numbs discomfort, much like emotional eating does. And here's what makes it even harder. the spending often feels justified in the moment. You're not thinking about, I'm about to make a bad decision. No, you're saying, I deserve this. It's been a long week. It's only $20. But over time, those moments, they stack up and they keep you from making progress towards your real goals. Once you realize that emotional spending is your brain's way of coping, you can start to interrupt the pattern. And one of the best ways to do this is by creating space between the impulse and the action. Pause and ask yourself, was I actually planning to spend this money, or is something else going on? What am I actually feeling right now? What am I hoping this purchase will give to me? Is there another way to meet that need? You're not trying to shame yourself or shut down your emotions. You're just bringing awareness to the moment. And that awareness alone can help you move in the direction to make more intentional choices. And that leads us to the most important part, because awareness is powerful. But if you don't replace the old habit with a new mindset, the cycle just keeps going and going and going. So let's talk about the practical mindset shift that helps you spend with confidence, without guilt or regret. Most people try to stop overspending by cutting back harder, restricting themselves more. But real change doesn't come from restriction. It comes from redefining why you spend and how you want your money to support your life. I used to think being good with money meant never buying anything fun. I felt guilty every time I spent, even if it was something small. But over time I realized that wasn't sustainable. I didn't want a life where money just sat there and I felt miserable. What I really wanted was to spend with confidence, without regret, and without sabotaging my future. This is the shift from impulse spending to intentional spending. Instead of asking, can I afford this? Try asking, does this put me a step closer to reaching my goals? Intentional spending doesn't mean never buying the latte, the shoes, or the power tools, or the fishing rods. It means knowing that what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to is beneficial to your life. And when you spend this way, you actually enjoy it more because you're not battling guilt afterwards. And here's how you can start creating this mindset. First, create a happiness list, a fun list, a joy list, whatever you want to call it. Things that bring you happiness and align with your values and goals. And when it's time to spend, check the list. Here are a couple examples to help you get started. Let's say you want to start taking better care of your body, not just physically, but emotionally too. You want to feel nurtured. So instead of always grabbing the cheapest products off the shelf, you add a few higher quality items to your happiness list, like a gentle facial cleanser, a nourishing moisturizer, or a mineral sunscreen that actually feels good to use. It's not about splurging. It's about aligning your spending with your intention to care for yourself. Or maybe you've been feeling overwhelmed and want to unwind a little bit more. You know that getting outside helps with your stress levels, or that working with your hands brings you peace. So instead of buying a cheap fishing rod or the lowest quality tools, you invest a little bit more in items that support that need, because you're not just buying stuff, you're creating space for rest, creativity, and joy. The beauty of this practice is that it makes your spending more intentional. When you already have a plan for the things that truly matter to you, you're less likely to impulse buy on things that don't bring you joy and happiness. You'll still experience joy from spending, but this time it's on your terms. The second is to use purposeful spending categories in your budget. These are for things like personal growth, hobbies, family experiences, whatever lights you up and fits your bigger vision. And third, celebrate aligned spending, just like you would celebrate hitting a savings goal, because smart spending is part of financial success too. Intentional spending puts you back in control. You're not reacting, you're choosing, and that's a habit worth building. Your spending habits aren't broken, and you're not irresponsible with money. There's an actual psychological reason why you spend money the way you do. But the key is that you don't stay stuck. You can break free and spend your money in a way that aligns with what you truly want. And if you're trying to figure out why saving money still feels so hard, even when you want to, watch this video next, because controlling your spending is only half the battle. If you're not saving money, you're still behind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.